Chapter 8 Fire, Feathers, and Bat Wings. In the last 3 weeks of training leading up to their graduation from Basic, Comet and Angel were tested as never before. Every day started the same, a 30-lap run around the training compound, but each one was focused on their specific shortcomings. Comet went through a more vigorous and detailed combat training, while Angel worked on making herself more stoic and even in flight training. Due to her bat wings, it made her far less agile than Comet in the sky. She could fly straight forward just fine, but even the most basic obstacles forced her to almost come to a complete stop before she could turn. Corporal Feathermane even became less of an instructor and more of a drill sergeant, turning up the pressure for Comet and Angel to perform better, move faster, and fight harder. On the other side of the rankings, Shining Armor hunched over, blocking the door with his body. His horn glowed, making the windows unbreakable. He stared coldly at the Phoenix in the center of the room, who was cawing unhappily. He grumbled to himself as the Phoenix turned away from him, acting like a stuck-up filly. "I knew I should have asked to use Pee-wee instead," he mumbled to himself. Apparently Phoenixes have really good hearing because Philomena cawed angrily and flew over to Shining Armor, who for his part ran around on the opposite side of the room and tried to peck the living daylights out of him. Believe it or not, this was actually a successful training day for her. Back in the barracks of the training compound, it was hard for Angel to sleep. Tomorrow was graduation day, and she'd become a real royal guard. She chewed on a lock of her mane as she lay there, wishing Celestia would decide to raise the sun early so it would happen. After about 15 seconds of waiting, Angel got bored and peeked underneath her bed. Below, Comet was sleeping soundly, as if tomorrow was nothing special. Corporal Feathermane had worn him out with the sparring matches, pushing him with a mix of both hoof-to-hoof combat and weapon training. Angel knew from 4 months of being around him that Comet preferred to avoid conflicts, which led him to being very quiet and indecisive. She also knew his favorite meal was roasted carrots and fresh oats. He had one of the best prodder faces ever, and he enjoyed silence. Deciding it was best not to wake him, Angel rolled back over her pillow and just lay there. Thoughts stuck on Comet. She knew him well, almost too well. Granted, the duo had spent the last 4 months almost glued to each other. Corporal Feathermane insisted that it helped them train when one recruit had a rival, but Angel never really saw themselves as rivals. No, they were more like friends, maybe even approaching a brother and sister relationship. She had been thinking about Comet and how much he had changed from their first meeting when he was mean, sarcastic, and just plain unpleasant to be around. Although she would never admit it, Angel almost despised Comet's company at first, almost as much as he did her. The only reason she kept being happy was because she knew it annoyed him. However, after that black eye incident in the beginning of Basic, she had felt she was too harsh on her opinion of him and worked around it. Then the incident at the mess hall happened. She had seen the guards mess with Comet, but only intervened after they had hurt him. She knew she could have stopped it before it got that far, but she did it out of spite for Comet. Angel felt a sour taste in her mouth when she remembered that day. It certainly stood out as the meanest she'd ever been to Comet, and she was ashamed of it. Now he was her friend, quite possibly even her best friend. Plus, there was also a little icking in the back of her mind that said she was more than that. He was strong, kind, and now fun to be around. He had those blazing red eyes, and she loved the color of it. He smiled at her almost exclusively, and he even knew how to comfort her. Angel rolled over and closed her eyes. She had thought any mare would be lucky to have him, but now a new thought sprung from that. Could she have him? Comet, asleep underneath her, was dreaming about winning a flying race against Soren, and tons of mares were screaming his name. Spitfire had even fallen for him for winning. It was a good dream. The trumpets woke Comet and Angel, who was overtired from her night of introspective thought, and they both went to meet Corporal Feathermane. He stood in his usual spot and wore his stoic face when the pair approached. "So, you both have gone through 4 months of training, and you think you're guards now?" he asked rhetorically. "Then, let's see how well I've disciplined you. We'll go for our usual run, but this time, we ain't stopping until the sun is behind that spire there." He pointed a hoof over to the castle at what you could barely call a spire. Comet and Angel immediately took off, running the usual course. Corporal Feathermane followed them, watching like a hawk as they ran. He was unusually strict today, but Comet knew this was a huge test not just for them, but for him as well. He had to prove he could train recruits. Angel was lagging behind, but Comet slowed down ever so slightly to help keep her pace. Apparently, Corporal Feathermane had not noticed, and soon Angel and Comet were side by side. Angel was tired, but she pushed herself to run. Soon, morning had passed, and so did lunchtime. It was the afternoon when the sun finally touched the spire Feathermane had referred them to, and he let them stop running. Both Comet and Angel were worn out beyond belief, so Comet collapsed on the dirt with Angel right on top of him. As the two recovered, Feathermane brought them each some water and a snack. When the two could finally stand, Feathermane grinned. "So, you think the hard part's over?" he asked slyly. "This is part 2 of your exam. You've proved that you have the toughness and stamina to be guards. But now, you have to show off your flying skills. Come with me." The trio walked over to the front of the compound, which hurt for Comet and Angel, but when they got there, a rather large purple object sat in front of it. Corporal Feathermane walked up to it and said, "Here's your final challenge." He pulled off what apparently was a cover and revealed a spectacular golden cage with a fiery red bird inside. The bird cawed angrily, and Feathermane continued. "This is Philomena, Princess Celestia's prized pet phoenix. She's very temperamental and likes to get loose. It's part of the Pegasus and Bat Pony's job to keep an eye on her." Without warning, Corporal Feathermane reached over and undid the clasp, and the door swung open. As quickly as she could, Philomena bolted out of the cage and flew off. "Your final test is to go and get her before sundown. Dismissed!" he shouted. Comet and Angel looked at each other before taking off after the Phoenix, who could fly just as fast as either of them could. Angel flew faster in a straight line, so she pulled away from Comet and just bore down on Philomena. Philomena glanced back at Angel and cawed angrily. She tried to go faster, but noticed the castle rapidly approaching her. Philomena waited until the last second and broke off sharply to the left. Angel, for her part, flew by the turning point and frantically tried to stop her forward momentum. The castle wall rapidly approached her, and she gave a small yelp of terror before she felt something grab her tail. A swift and slightly painful yank later, Angel was being dragged parallel to the castle wall. She turned to see Comet pulling her along, a determined face etched upon his. When Angel finally got her wings flapping again, Comet spit out her tail and flew next to her, never taking his eyes off of Philomena. The duo continued to chase the Phoenix around the castle spires, dodging and weaving around bridges, balconies, and even a large telescope at the tallest spire. Try as they might, though, Philomena was somehow just as smart as both of them, forcing Angel to almost crash repeatedly and Comet to have to try and save her to catch up. All in all, Philomena used their flying abilities against them since Angel couldn't turn well and Comet wasn't very fast. To Comet, this was harder than running. After about an hour and a half of chasing the bird, Angel set herself down to catch her breath and let her wings rest. Not sleeping a whole lot the night before was catching up to her, and she watched Comet fruitlessly chase Philomena. There had to be a way to catch her, especially if it was part of the guard's job to watch her. Trying to watch Philomena's flying patterns was nearly impossible, since she often changed her tactics to avoid capture. Maybe there was another way. Angel would have bribed her with treats, but she didn't know what phoenixes really considered treats. Finally, it looked like Comet had a breakthrough. He hid behind a spire, breathing heavily but keeping an eye on the bird. When she realized she wasn't being followed anymore, Philomena perched herself on a window near Celestia's tower. She sat there and happily began preening her feathers while Comet tried to sneak up on her. Philomena paid him little attention as he neared up from behind. When he was about 4 feet away, Comet lunged for her, but Philomena easily dodged him and even got a peck on the head a couple times. She flew off in a huff to another windowsill, and this time kept both eyes on Comet, who was rubbing his head vigorously. Angel stifled a chuckle, but in doing so, an idea hit her. The duo had only about an hour solid daylight before the sun would start setting, so they had to try it fast. Angel also knew it had to be done right, since Philomena evidently made sure to fix her mistakes. She waved to get Comet's attention, and did. He flew over and scowled at her. "Having fun watching?" he growled, and Angel smiled at him. "My dad always told me to take my time with my problems. I think I have an idea on how we can catch her," she stated happily. Comet rolled his eyes and let her continue before uttering a sarcastic remark. "Philomena thinks like us. She recognizes our tactics and prevents us from catching her by using them against us. She also remembers how we've tried to catch her and avoids that too. However,
She can only focus on one pony at a time. If one of us goes to get her attention, the other might be able to surprise her.
Comet narrowed his eyes and said, I've been chasing that blasted phoenix for an hour, and that is the best plan you've got, he hissed. Angel reached out a hoof and put on his shoulder.
It's a way we haven't tried yet, she offered.
Comet grumbled in response. Then who's going to sneak up on her? Probably you, right? He retorted sarcastically.
Nope. I make too much noise when I fly. You're going to be the big, strong phoenix wrangler, she said with a grin.
Comet groaned. He didn't like the idea, but he really couldn't come up with a better one on the spot. He nodded, and Angel smiled widely. She leaned over to him and gave him a small kiss on the cheek and said,
We better hurry.
Comet sat there dumbfounded as she flew off to Philomena, who eyed Angel angrily. She knew that they were trying to capture her, so Angel did the obvious thing.
Okay, Philomena, you win,
Angel called over to the Phoenix. Philomena tilted her head to the side while Angel continued.
You've outflown both of us, and you've proved that you're smarter. I can't catch you, and neither can Comet.
Philomena raised her head and puffed out her chest. It was about time that she finally started getting some respect around here. Angel kept on flattering the proud bird as Comet quickly flew up to the back side of the tower and landed on the tiles. He slowly leaned over to her and had a perfect view of the Phoenix's back. Her eyes were closed, as if she could grin. She would be right now. Then, without warning, Angel dove towards Philomena, who in turn easily dodged her by flying straight up, right into Comet's line of sight. He lunged towards her back as Philomena glared down at Angel and easily caught her. Philomena, startled by the sudden grasp she was in, cawed loudly and angrily as she flapped her wings, trying to break free. Comet, who was in control now, flapped his wings as hard as he could and bolted back to the training grounds. Philomena protested loudly and began to peck his forehooves. The cage, along with a surprised-looking Corporal Feathermane, raced towards the Pegasus and Phoenix. Comet managed to slow down enough to get Philomena into the cage, but the Phoenix had anticipated that and nearly escaped again. A gray hoof shot out from behind Comet's head and slammed the cage door shut before Philomena could escape again. The Phoenix cawed angrily and pecked at the door, but the latch clicked into place and the door was locked.
We did it!
Angel shouted happily from behind and gave Comet another air-crushing hug. Corporal Feathermane simply stood there with his mouth hanging open and blinked twice. It usually took 10 times the guards to catch Philomena than this duo, but they managed to do it. A steady clapping of a hoof broke the revel of Angel and Comet, and they saw shining armor not too far away. The pair quickly took on their guard stances as he approached, but Philomena cawed angrily at him. Shining smiled at them, but turned to Corporal Feathermane and said, Well done, Corporal. Your first recruits passed the final test. Shining turned to the duo and said, That was quite a performance. The guard usually needs to overwhelm Philomena with numbers to catch her again. You two did it with teamwork and logical thinking. I was a bit disappointed that you decided to not help Comet out for a while, Recruit Angel. He looked to her, and she lowered her head, somewhat ashamed, but Comet cleared his throat. Permission to speak, sir. Granted. If it wouldn't have been for her observation of Philomena's behavior, sir, I doubt we would have been able to catch her, Comet said briskly. Shining looked from Comet to Angel, who had now put her head back up and was slightly blushing, and grinned. I suppose that's true. Commanders don't often fight with the troops, but they do provide tactical advantages by looking for weaknesses. But still, Angel did quit on the test prematurely. Comet, who felt a strange sensation to protect Angel, said, If that means she doesn't pass, then I didn't either, sir. I only caught her after Angel suggested the tactic we used. Shining Armor narrowed his gaze at Comet and said, You're willing to jeopardize your promotion so she doesn't get left behind? Sir, yes, sir, Comet managed to say. Angel's eyes widened at that, and a huge sense of incredulity flooded her senses. Comet wouldn't get promoted unless she did too? A twinge of an emotion stung her heart. It was a good emotion, though, one that made her want to squeeze him into a tight hug. All the ponies remained silent as Shining stared at Comet, who, in turn, never let his gaze falter. His future in the guard was on the line here, but Comet felt strangely calm. If Angel, his friend, wasn't there, then being a guard was something he didn't want to do. Finally, Shining broke a smile and said, Congratulations, privates. You've both successfully passed basic training. He held out a hoof to Angel first, who shook it, then to Comet, who also shook it. In recognition of your amazing performance in the recapturing of Philomena, he paused as she cawed angrily in the background. You are both hereby Royal Guards of Equestria, and will report tomorrow for your first day of guarding Her Royal Highness's prize pet, Philomena. He saluted the bat pony and Pegasus, who returned it, and said, The armory will be your first stop tomorrow, so you may be outfitted with your golden armor. Dismissed. That night, Comet and Angel spent the evening talking and exchanging happy emotions about graduating.